All right, folks, this is Harris Sultan, and the latest tranche of the Epstein Files was released a couple of days ago, so I needed some time to process that information, go through it as much as I could, and then formulate my arguments and give you my opinions, because apparently, if you don't talk about the Epstein scandal, then somehow you are involved in this, okay? So I'll give you, first of all, my overview argument in this. I am a proponent of Western civilization and Western values. That doesn't mean everything is perfect in the West. And I can also appreciate the fact that it's Western values that are calling out the bad behavior of Jeffrey Epstein and all the people who are associated with him. If this was the Muslim world, then there's nothing to complain about because child marriage is perfectly legal, 100% Sharia compliant in Islam, which is why I actually have been trolling a lot of these Muslim handles who have been calling out the failings of Western civilization by posting this meme. Jeffrey Epstein's youngest victim was still 5 years older than Muhammad's youngest victim. That is saying something. But I still have to talk about this because there are some names that are troubling. And some of those names are of the people whom I consider heroes, okay? My heroes, not my gods, not my prophets. And let me say that categorically, if one of them is beyond a reasonable doubt found to be guilty of being a creep or a pedophile or a criminal, then screw them. That's the beauty of not being religiously tied to anyone. Muslims can't call out their prophet. They just can't, even when they know that his youngest victim was only 9 years old. Okay, so who are these heroes that I'm talking about? So Elon Musk's name has been mentioned. Actually, let's start with Trump, okay? So the most surprising thing about the Epstein file is how unsurprising they really are. The shock is only for those who believed otherwise. The question for all of us is, do we continue to function normally now that it's proven the world is being managed by a bunch of compromised pedophiles caught in the web of an Israeli Mossad agent? So a lot of assumptions here, first of all. There is absolutely still no evidence, although circumstantial evidence may point it in that direction, but there is no evidence that Epstein was working for the Mossad or for the Israeli government and not in his personal capacity for his lust, power, and influence. As we dig further into these Epstein files, we realize that Jeffrey Epstein was a very sociable, very influential, very creepy, but he was always looking to spread his tentacles in every social circle that he could, from politicians to sports stars to celebrities to influencers to even scientists. His tentacles were everywhere. And if I was around at that time, I don't know, who knows? He might have approached me too without me knowing about his dirty secrets. And it also looks like that he almost welcomed everyone to his island because that's the way to lure someone in, bring someone in, get them in your sex parties or whatever, and then blackmail them. That's perfectly reasonable. But again, despite the tranche of this latest 3 million documents that there was any direct link between Epstein and the Mossad of the Israeli state. Look, he might be. I'm not saying he's not, because states do these dirty things, okay? Every intelligence agency does it. MI6 did it. The CIA did it. Maybe Mossad does it too. I don't know. But I am going to keep an open mind until I see undeniable evidence, okay? So now Trump. We know Trump was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Why wouldn't he be? He was a New Yorker. As I said, Jeffrey Epstein's tentacles were everywhere. He was in touch with almost every influential person. So there's nothing wrong with that. However, there is no evidence found yet that Trump was involved in any illegal activity, okay? He might have had sex parties. He was hanging around with beautiful women. Well, look, I'm sorry. This is not a problem for me as an atheist. As a Christian, if you think that this is immoral of him to do it, which I've always believed, I don't think Trump was ever a Christian, okay? I don't think so. I never thought that he was a Christian. I never thought that he was strong in his faith, okay? That's your baggage to deal with. It's not my problem. But having said that, though, the reason why I like Trump is because he's doing things that are in the best interest of America, which is to preserve American values, American way of life, and keep the invaders out of America. Otherwise, America will become what Europe has become. That's the only reason. He's not my prophet. If there's undeniable evidence of Trump doing anything illegal, put him in prison. I don't care. That's not my problem. And I'm sure most people who value Trump would say the same thing. But the problem is there is no actual evidence. A lot of people are actually finding people guilty by association. You know, oh, he's mentioned in the Epstein Files. For example, Tommy Robinson. Let me talk about Tommy Robinson. This is what we have seen about Tommy Robinson. Look at these people. Breaking! Jeffrey Epstein celebrated Tommy Robinson's prison release in 2018 in an email. So in 2018, when Tommy Robinson came out of prison, Jeffrey Epstein celebrated him coming out. What's wrong with that? Jeffrey Epstein also celebrated Red Sox victory. Jeffrey Epstein has many sports views, political views, despite being a creep. What's wrong with that? I have many views on Western civilization, on Islam. But if you tomorrow found out that all of a sudden that I'm a creep, I'm a pedophile, whatever, does that mean that every other view that I've ever had was some sort of a conspiracy? So when Tommy Robinson came out, this is what Jeffrey Epstein said to an unknown person. Tommy Robinson, good work. This is on 1st of August 2018 when Tommy Robinson came out of prison. So this guy says, thanks. Now, we don't know. Some people are saying that this is Tommy Robinson in direct contact with him. I don't know if Tommy Robinson has denied this. Want to visit Florida for a weekend? Let's talk today or tomorrow. Lots to catch up on. He's saying, cool, in Cambridge with Errol. All right, just a quick edit. I just spoke with Tommy, and Tommy categorically denied. He said he's never spoken to him, never been on the Epstein Island. He's never messaged Jeffrey Epstein. It's just Steve Bannon mentioning him. Steve Bannon is all over. He was in contact with Epstein. But yeah, Tommy, and I believe him. It's just pathetic that we have to say this. Guilty by association is not something that you can do. For example, look at this. My other hero, I have often mentioned, Richard Dawkins, my intellectual hero. I don't think I would be the person I am today if I hadn't read his book. He has an immense impact on my intellectual awakening, okay? Now, here he is sitting with Jeffrey Epstein. It looks like he's at some conference. What do you know? Clearly, you know this guy is a predator. He's very sociable, he's very influential, and he's always trying to spread his tentacles into every possible discourse. Politics, sports stars, academics, everyone, you name it. So what do you do when you're in that position? Is there evidence that Richard Dawkins went to his island and did something illegal? Absolutely not, despite this massive tranche of 3 million files or however many there are. Here's Jeffrey Epstein writing to Barnaby Marsh. He's saying, I'm having some scientists advisory board to Lawrence Krauss to the islands in November. You are, of course, invited. Try to come. And here's the name, Richard Dawkins, Douglas Irwin, so many other names, I don't know, but I'm only interested in Richard Dawkins' name. So apparently Richard Dawkins is going to this island in November. Did he go there? There's no evidence. There is this photo of Dan Dennett, Steven Pinker, I don't know who this guy is, John Brockman, and this lady, Katinka Matson. I don't know why she's sitting on Dan Dennett's lap. Could be totally harmless. There's not enough room, so let me just sit on your lap. And Dan was like, okay, that's fine. And Richard Dawkins is sitting here. Now, he's saying flying to the TED conference in Monterey, California with science philanthropists. So it is possible that Jeffrey Epstein, being a predator that he is, trying to spread his tentacles everywhere, would have said, hey, you know what? Do you want to hitch a ride on my private jet? I'll give you a lift to this TED talk. Okay? Perfectly possible. Are they going to his island to do some illegal activity? Is there enough evidence? I don't know. I am not going to say anything unless there is firm evidence. And I'm not just saying that to protect these guys. This is the reason why I'm not Christian, despite all of you telling me that, hey, you know what, come to Jesus, let Jesus enter. I'm like, yeah, look, it's a very beautiful religion, very peaceful. I can see the great civilization it has built. But unless there is firm evidence which can convince my mind, I cannot believe in something to be true. It's my problem, okay? At this point, this is guilty by association. You know what? What else is mentioned in the Epstein Files? Superman is mentioned about 115 times in the files. Superman is a creep. Look at this. Mehdi Hasan is mentioned in the Epstein Files. You know why he's mentioned in the Epstein File? Because an Emirati businessman who was an associate of Jeffrey Epstein, he was sending Mehdi Hasan's debate in defense of Islam. There's the email. This is the best debate on Islam and violence I have ever seen. Please watch it. It answers many questions that come to mind. Check out this video. So Mehdi Hasan is also in the Epstein files. And he's saying, hey, look, I was in the Epstein files for this reason. Does that mean I am guilty by association? No, he's not guilty. Elon Musk, okay? Elon Musk's name is also in Epstein files. And there's one email exchange between Elon and Jeffrey Epstein that is doing the rounds, okay? So let's start with that one. This is it. Now, I don't know why everyone is going after Elon Musk. So this is the email from Elon to Jeffrey Epstein sent in 2012, November 25th, 2012. He's saying, probably just Tallulah and me, what day and night will be the wildest party on your island? Tallulah is probably his girlfriend. And then later on, Elon Musk sends an email to Jeffrey Epstein again. He said, do you have any parties planned? I have been working to the edge of sanity this year and so. Once my kids head home after Christmas, I really want to hit the party scene in St. Bart's or elsewhere and let loose. The invitation is much appreciated, but a peaceful island experience is the opposite of what I am looking for. So Jeffrey Epstein asked Elon Musk to come to his island, and Elon Musk is saying that, oh, you know, a peaceful island retreat is not what I'm looking for. Obviously, he doesn't know at this point. There are going to be kids there, blackmail material, whatever. He doesn't know any of that, but he has declined it. But guess what? Jeffrey Epstein replies back to Elon Musk and he says, do you think I am retarded? Just kidding. There is no one over 25 and all are very cute. So he's trying to entice him by saying no girl is over 25. So you assume, if someone tells you this, no one is over 25. So you assume the young women are going to be there, 18 and 25. Okay, party scene. Beautiful. Let's go there. He's not saying that, you know what, there's going to be special kind of arrangements over there. First of all, this proves that Elon Musk, A, didn't go, B, he didn't even know anything about the little thing. Yes, he may have known that this guy is a convicted pedophile, sex trafficker, or whatever, but he got out of it. There it is. Okay, so let's just address that point as well. So how did he get out? How did Jeffrey Epstein get out? Would everyone have known about this? Maybe they should have. That's stupid of getting involved with someone. But you got to remember, this guy has access to major influence players. So in order to be able to get into Congress or get into highly influential people, you have to go through him. You have to socialize with him. So that's people's Achilles heel. Yes, he's found guilty, but he also got out. Okay, fine. So how did he get out? This is how he got out. Epstein was arrested in Florida in 2006 on federal charges of running a trafficking ring involving underage girls. Instead of taking that case to federal trial, he stuck a plea deal in 2007 and then Florida U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. Under that deal, Epstein pled guilty to 2 state charges of soliciting prostitution, one involving a minor, okay? I don't think anyone would have looked that up, but fine, if they looked it up, okay. What's the next charge? How serious is this? He was sentenced to 18 months in jail, of which he served about 13 months with a work release program that let him leave the jail for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. The deal also granted immunity from federal prosecution to Epstein and any potential co-conspirator. That's a huge loophole. Yeah, when you think about it, it's like, oh, everyone else who was associated with him, they've been given a free pass. What happened here? But if you are a normal scientist who's looking to expand his influence, like Lawrence Krauss or Richard Dawkins, or you're an activist like Tommy Robinson, would you know all of this? And how does that impact you? The US government has released him. What else do I do? Okay, the guy's a creep. Okay, I'm going to keep it at an arm's length. If I run into him into a conference, I can talk to him about something. At this point, you got to understand, no one had any idea that he had an Epstein Island where he's systematically abusing girls and how widespread his operation is. Nobody knew that, okay? We are applying our hindsight into this. I'll give you even more evidence. Look at all these Muslims. MBS, all these Emirati, Qatari, all these people, they're also involved. Looks like they're meeting in a professional capacity. Do we know that they all went to his islands? MBS doesn't need to go to Jeffrey Epstein to fulfill his sexual fantasies, but he does need him if he needs to expand his social footprint in American social circles or British social circles. That's why he needs someone like Epstein who acted like a conduit between the East and the West. So that's probably the reason why all these people are involved. I'll tell you, this name appeared. I know this guy. He's a Pakistani politician, okay? Poor guy. I mean, he's in that Epstein list as well, and people are trolling him in Pakistan. Look at this email. Jeffrey, please come. You may have private time with each. Your security clearance is approved. So Jeffrey Epstein is trying to reach out to these people. There's this guy of Bahrain, Kuwait, Egypt, blah, blah, blah. This guy, Pakistan. Shah Mahmood Qureshi, okay? I know this guy. There's no way this guy is going to his Island, okay? This is pretty clear that Jeffrey Epstein is making time to reach out to all these people. All of these guys, by the way, are Muslims. Does that mean they're all creeps? No, Jeffrey Epstein is a conduit between influential people. Oh, actually, by the way, Elon Musk has actually responded to that. Let me just share that in his email. He's saying, nobody has fought harder for full release of the Epstein files and prosecution of those who abused children more than I did, more than Elon Musk. That's true. He's been nonstop, knowing full well that the legacy media, far left propagandists, and those who are actually guilty would admit nothing, deny everything, make counter accusations against him, which they're doing. I read you the email exchange. Jeffrey Epstein is enticing Elon Musk to come to his island where no woman would be over 25. Okay? If someone tells you, hey, come to my party, no one's over 25, you'd assume it's between 18 and 25, whatever the legal age is in that country. No one is thinking they're going to be 8 or 9-year-old girls. Okay? No one is thinking that. I knew that I would be smeared relentlessly despite never having attended his parties or been on his Lolita Express plane or set foot on his creepy island or done anything wrong at all. The only time when you can actually speak there confidently and keep doing it is when you know that I'm not guilty. There is no email that is going to come out. There's no photo that is going to come out in which you would see Elon Musk with an underage girl. That's the confidence this guy has. Nonetheless, the extreme pain of being accused of being the opposite of who I am was worth it. The strong must protect those who cannot protect themselves, especially vulnerable children. I will gladly accept any amount of future pain to do more to protect kids and give them a chance to grow up and have happy lives. So Muslims are attacking him. This is a classic Moat and Bailey fallacy. So Muslims are saying, hey, you have an email exchange with Jeffrey Epstein, therefore you're guilty. So he's saying, oh, look, I'm mentioned. Mehdi Hassan is mentioned. All of these foreign diplomats, Muslims, a lot of people are mentioned or even have broken words with him or even have photos with him. Elon Musk doesn't have a photo with him. Like, that doesn't mean anything. So they go back to a more agreed upon position, which is this. Why did you choose to talk with a man after he was convicted for? That's a separate issue. First of all, he doesn't know the scope of it. No one knows the scope in 2008, how there's an Epstein Island. This is the extent of his operations. Yeah, he's found guilty of one charge involving a minor, just one charge, and he's been let out. Perfectly legal. No one is going to go into the case files and read thousands upon thousands of documents and say, oh, there's a conspiracy. People who are not conspiracy minded, like me, we don't believe in conspiracy. Although Elon Musk has become more conspiracy minded afterwards, probably because of these experiences. The Epstein saga and obviously COVID and everything. A lot of us who were very non-conspiratorial minded to somewhat, maybe things are not always as clear as they make it out to be. Now they go back to a more acceptable position. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But that doesn't mean that he's guilty. Okay, talking to a past sex offender in which he only got a light sentence, that's what I would look at. Oh, 13 months he got, oh, that is a pretty disgusting charge. Sex trafficking involving a minor, but okay, he did his time, he's out. Okay, fine. Now, can I get to Trump through this guy? Okay, let me try my luck. That doesn't mean that I'm involved in his more elaborate scheme of hiring people, blackmailing people, taking photos, involving creeps. Like some people are genuine creeps, like Prince Andrew. Possibly Bill Clinton as well. But again, I'm keeping an open mind, okay? I'm keeping an open mind. I'm not saying Bill Clinton or Bill Gates were definitely creeps, okay? This is why we have this phenomenon called the burden of proof. You have to prove it. One more point on Tommy Robinson. So he's happy that Tommy Robinson is out. That's fine. He has political views. He's a Jew. He probably is more pro-Israel. There's nothing wrong with that. I am pro-West. I'm pro-America. I'm pro-Western civilization. But if you find out that I'm a creep, that doesn't mean that being pro-America or having heroes who are pro-Western civilization, that doesn't mean that the entire opinion or the entire position is wrong just because I had that position and I also happen to be a creep. These two things can exist simultaneously. They're not mutually exclusive. And by the way, they keep lying. They keep saying, oh, by the way, Tommy Robinson hasn't mentioned the Epstein Files or whatever. Look at this. He keeps talking about Epstein Files. He keeps talking about him. He's condemned many people so many times. He keeps I just don't get it. Now, one last point. Muslims have their own Epstein Island. It's called Britain. The whole island is Muslim Epstein Island. literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of British underage girls have been abused by over 90% Muslims, okay? With a few exceptions of some Hindus and some Sikhs. This is what Khomeini, the original one, wrote in his book about sex with. Intercourse with a woman is not allowed unless she attains the age of 9 years, regardless whether the marriage is permanent or temporary. You know, Muslims can have temporary marriage. As you know, Mohammed Hijab did a temporary marriage as well, and that girl spilled the beans. So you can do permanent temporary marriage with young girls, but have to be 9 years and above. But if she's under 9 years, that still doesn't mean that you can't pleasure yourself. There is, however, no objection in other enjoyments like touching lasciviously, hugging, and rubbing the thighs, even with a sucking infant. Sorry, this might be very sickening, but this is written in Khomeini's book, Ayatollah Khomeini, okay? And then these Islamist propagandists have the nerve to tell us that this guy is on the Epstein Files. This is what they're propagating. What happens to pedophiles in Iran? They get executed. In the US, they become president. Again, there is no evidence that Trump was involved with underage girls, okay? There is plenty of evidence of Trump being a womanizer in his early years. Sorry, he's not a Christian. I'm sorry. It is what it is. But that is not criminal. There's a difference between criminal and immoral. Because morality can be driven from your Christian beliefs, Islamic beliefs. But regardless, in Islam, this is why under every Islamist propagandist post, I keep sharing this, Jeffrey Epstein's youngest victim was 5 years older than Prophet Muhammad's. Look at this. Shameless propagandists. It's like there are no Muslims on Epstein's list. I mean, I've already shown you the list of Muslims on Epstein's list, even the photos. Here's some of the photos. These guys are all Muslims, okay? They're hanging out with Epstein. Again, that doesn't mean that they were all creeps. They were probably trying to expand this influence. Conversely, though, this is the difference, okay? In the West, people are shocked. People are condemning this. This has become a top story. This is a major shakeup. People are scared because banging kids is considered immoral and obviously criminal. But in Islam, it is celebrated. The greatest Muslim of all time, Muhammad himself, was a Jeffrey Epstein in a way. We don't worship Jeffrey Epstein. And even if all these people that I mentioned, that I said there's not enough evidence, whether that's Trump or Elon Musk or Richard Dawkins or Tommy Robinson, but if every one of them is found guilty, I don't worship them. They should answer for their crimes if they're found guilty. Right now, the evidence is not there. But these guys know that Muhammad was Epstein and they still worship him. That's the difference between Western values and Islamic values. I bet Jeffrey Epstein loved Islam's take on sex with children. He must have loved that particular aspect of Islam. So in the West, we condemn that behavior. In the Muslim world, they cry to not be able to girls. Have a look at this guy. This is a Somali man crying because Somalia has just banned child marriage. He's crying.
This video shows a 73-year-old man sobbing in public, but not over heartbreak.
That old man is sobbing in public because he's not allowed to have sex with young children. This is how messed up it is. Let me show you another one. Pakistan tried to do the same thing. They tried to ban child marriage. This guy is a parliamentarian in Pakistan. And guess what he's saying? Let me read the subtitles. The way family laws have been made and the way you have amended these family laws, meaning you can't marry girls under 18, I declare that I will publicly violate them. I will publicly violate, meaning he will violate little girls. I will arrange marriages for youth aged 15, 16, 12, and even 10 years old. He's saying that on the floor of the House. This is Pakistani parliament. This is Jeffrey Epstein in action. And then these Muslims, they're calling us, this is Mohammed Hijab. Look at this. Why is Epstein's trafficking network never framed as a Jewish trafficking ring while crimes by others are so racialized or religiously labeled? You religiously label your actions. You say that you want to conquer the West, so you blow up, you attack the West, and you justify it with your Quranic verses and Islamic teachings. You justify banging little girls through your own book, through your own religion. That's why we call it Islamic value, because these are Islamic values. What Jeffrey Epstein did, he did it in pursuit of his power, control, and influence, and also his own lust. If there is clear-cut evidence involved that the Israeli government had him, I know this is a popular theory, then sure, I'll call it the Israeli operation. If he was justifying everything from biblical verses, then sure, I know he quoted a biblical verse. Much like a normal lipstick Muslim says, mashallah, inshallah, that doesn't mean his whole personality becomes Islamic. But if you attack the West, if you carry out terrorist attacks, and you defend child marriage in the name of Islam, that's why we call Islamic. This is how I responded to him. Because Islamic terror is done in the name of Islam. Epstein's crimes were committed out of his lust for power and influence. Unlike your boys, he wasn't following specific commands in the Talmud to justify his actions. So, yeah, I think he's quoted some biblical verses, but that wasn't the entire purpose of his actions. The entire purpose of his action was to gain influence and kids. So Epstein was a scumbag. He's a dead pedophile, much like another famous pedophile who has also been dead for a while. The only difference is we don't worship Epstein and even people who are associated with him. If they're found guilty, if there's undeniable evidence, screw him, I don't care. But there is a certain pedophile, the most famous pedophile in history. Jeffrey Epstein gave him good run for money, but the most famous pedophile remains the most famous, and you know who that is.